You can. It's coming. Oh, do I need to connect anything? No need. Okay. Okay. Good evening, everyone. First of all, thank you. Thank you for hosting us. Special appreciation to the president of the university and dean for the kind invitation, and Dr. Tausir, with whom I have been interacting for last I don't know 5-6 years. We were doing things together. Um, we even ran a 1 week, one whole week workshop at European Summer School on challenges in processing South Asian languages. I have taken some of the material from that workshop as well. So thank you, Tafsir, for all the facilitation, and also to Dr. Mutiur Rahman for he's there to support Tafsir, and they were taking care of us since our arrival very well. So we are also enjoying Karachi. Um, and thank you everyone for coming here to listen this talk. Um, yeah, as introduced by the compeer, so I am from University of Jaffna, so which is located in the northern part of Sri Lanka. So you all know where the Sri Lanka is located. So which is located in the very northern part of Sri Lanka, where Tamil is the majority or the main language, I would say, uh, and the mainland of Tamil speaking people. And we also have people like in the eastern part of where there is an asterisk shown, and also there are Tamil population in the middle part of Sri Lanka. They are basically came to Sri Lanka like 200 years, 300 years ago from India to do this tea picking task. So we are from the northern part of Sri Lanka, and our university name is University of Jaffna. So what we are going to cover today, so I have roughly 45 minutes. That's what Tawsir said to me. So we will try to cover these topics. Before I start, may I know how many of you are from linguistics background? Anybody? Or mostly from, yeah, one. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Yeah. So I will be discussing about giving an overview of South Asia and South Asian languages, because we need to know that to appreciate the work that we have been doing and the challenges that we have in front of us. So we need to know, and we also should know the potential that we have, which we don't realize actually, in all aspects, including economic growth. So I will be giving a brief overview of South Asia and South Asian languages. Then we have fundamental representational challenges, how we represent our languages and the script, the languages what we speak and what we write, scripts. So how do we represent them in computers? So we have challenges. So our challenges starts from there itself. And a linguistic challenges. I will not go into very detailed linguistic analysis here, but I will, in high level, I will be talking about it. And existing gaps that we have, from what we can learn from the ongoing work in the field of natural language processing, and what we can learn from other people who have done the work. And also I will be sharing some of the work that I have involved, and where we find gaps and what steps should we take. So I will leave that as a question that we all should discuss and we all should think about it. So that would be the high level overview of what I will be discussing today. Yeah, South Asia, we all know that there are 8 countries. Earlier it was 7, and then Afghanistan also now considered. So we have 8 countries in the region, which is shaded in yellow or yellowish color. And we have the 25% of the world population in this 3% of the world like a land area, right? So we are very concentrated region. I mean, by population, we are very concentrated. We have 25% of the world population, right? And so the country-wise, there are differences, and we have the highest population count in India. And more importantly, we have more than 650 living languages, and there are a lot more like Aboriginal languages, which are not yet documented. So linguistically also, we are very rich region. So we have a lot of people, we have a lot of languages. And in addition, we have a lot of people living abroad. They also bring more linguistic challenges to us because they interact with so many other languages, right? Say, for example, when it comes to Tamil, now people are also researching about Swiss Tamil, because people who migrated to Swiss, they went like in latter part of 70s or early 80s. So they have been living there for a long time. Now there are studies going to see how much their language got changed, or how much we see a possibility for a new dialect called Swiss Tamil. So because of language contact with, earlier our language contact is within South Asian region with Indo-Aryan languages, but now we interact with so many other completely different language families. So they bring us different challenges. So that's an interesting thing, and also that gives us that itself a challenging thing for us to handle. And we have the more younger youth population in the, probably I would say, in the world, right? That again brings up more challenge because they are more digital native, internet savvy. They create more content in the internet. So how then our languages or the language technology that we develop should shape them, or how they are shaping the data sets and whatever the language that we crawl from the internet, right? So and another interesting thing is the literacy rate, right? People who above age of 15, how many of them can read and write in their own mother tongue, right? That is, the average of South Asia is roughly around 75, but the world average is much higher. So that is also a challenge, right? Because then we will have more speech. We need to focus on more speech technologies, etc. If we are going for a citizen services, etc. Right? So then also the other factors, the geopolitical factors and economic issues. We have a economic problem, and Pakistan also has economic problems, severe problems, and that brings us some pressure for us to do certain things which may not right to our country, or our right to our region, right to our languages. So this all of these, the geographical and the socio economic factors actually influence our language technology as well. What we can do, what we can focus, what we should do, right? So it's all shape of what we need to do or we should do. So we should keep this also in mind. It's not just the language technology. Then if we take our languages, right? So they have more than a few millennia old, and they have continuous literary traditions, right? So we have two classical languages, Sanskrit and Tamil. There may be other languages which are on debate, but these two are like considered like classical languages in the sense that they are there for more than 2000 years ago and 2000 years, and they have a continuous unbroken literary tradition, right? So what is interesting there is they are there for 2000 years. They have come across so many colonization. They have come across so many this war and so many interaction. They also have been evolving, right? Say for example, if you take Tamil, so which is my mother tongue, and what is spoken in India and what is spoken in Sri Lanka, there are differences. There are differences in all level, in linguistically speaking, from phonology, morphology, syntax, right? So you have divergence in all levels. But what happens at the moment is, if you take any NLP models or any data set, they say Tamil data set. They don't distinguish between what is there in India and what is there in Sri Lanka. So then what you do with those tools and the translation system, maybe Google Translate, will not be straight away usable in our context because vocabularies are different, terminologies are different, and people also sometimes may find it difficulties to understand them, right? So this long literary traditions bring its own challenges from the language perspective and the diaglostic nature. So the Tamil, if we take the spoken Tamil variety and the written variety, there's a gap in it, right? Um, then the artistic forms, the poetic form and the prose, they also quite different, right? The rules which governs all these poetic forms are quite different, and that is the form which was widely used in early days. Maybe because people can easily remember and memorize all these poems than the prose, right? So that was the popular genre which was used, and they have their own governing rules, which now still we do not think about it in NLP, right? And more importantly, the languages in South Asia are not just a communication tool, but it is much more. It gives us the culture, it gives us the identity, and by looking at the language, we can say who is he and how he would be, right? And also on politics. So it is not just a language like in many other places, but it is bundled with so many other things into it. So this all basically bring its own challenges and pressure for the processing of our languages. So that's a very brief introduction to South Asia context and the challenges that we have in general. Right? If I go a bit uh, detailing about languages, so we have, as I said, there are so many hundred languages, and we have so many language families, right? The primary one is Indo-Aryan, and then Iranian, and we have Dravidian, right? Um, then we have so many scripts, so many ways to write our language, right? So very nice, curly, beautiful letters, right? So if we look at some of these, so what we have written here is, sorry, I should take, okay, this is also a problem, right? So still the rendering problem, right? So I'm using Firefox. It does not render um, Urdu well, right? Nask and this Sindhi well, right? So let me switch it to, so now you can see that, and let me switch it to Chrome. So this is the challenges is even in the fundamental level, right? Web browsing. Yeah, it can be a very good project. Yeah, definitely. So now you see the difference, right? Uh, so the rendering, right? So rendering, so these are fundamental. So before we talk about LLM, we have a lot more fundamental things to solve, right? So and also you see very nice, curly, beautiful art kind of letters, right? They look, they all look very beautiful, but they bring their own challenges. So especially in the context of OCR, optical character recognition. So some of these characters, it's very hard to differentiate, right? They look the same for a like a second speaker. I mean, for a native speaker, he may find it, but there are issues even that native speakers can't solve it. We will touch on it, right? And then this we have this nastalic orthogonal writing and all, like that brings its own problem for OCR. So I should thank Tafwir. So we prepared this nice slide for the European summer school. So we talked about languages and then the script. Then when we represent them in computer, we have own challenges, right? So we have primarily two main writing system, Brahmi and Brahmi script and the Arabic script. And what we use in Brahmi, or what we used to write Tamil, Sinhala, Hindi, right? We call it an Abugida writing system, where we have a consonant and we have a vowel modifier, we call it, and they get together and form another character. We can call it a ligature, right? So so that is how the characters are formed in Abugida. Then on the other hand, we have abjad, right? You write it from right to left, right? And when you put together characters, it forms um, a one ligature, right? Um, so this is again a challenge, right? So how do you train as a OCR to do this, right? So this is so the short vowels are not written. So S B A B A. So then how do you do the OCR here, right? So it's a challenge because all now have been put together. So you can't, then if you want to train an OCR, then you need to basically think of all these possibilities and all these forms they come up with when they get together, right? Then the soft vowels are not written, so then it brings up a problem for like speech synthesis or text to speech, because you need to basically manually put it, right? We have to have this of short vowels, right? In order to make the systems. So the writing systems, they bring their own problem. Then we also have a problem of many scripts are used to write one language, right? Sanskrit, if we take, it doesn't have its own writing system or a script. So it borrows it from Devanagari or Grantha, right? So Grantha is what is widely used in the southern part of India. So in southern part of India, they use the writing system called Grantha or the script called Grantha to write Sanskrit. In the northern part, they use Devanagari to do that, write it. Then we have Sindhi, right? So you are written using two different writing systems. One is Abugida, other one is Abjad, right? Um, uh, then also we have Romanization as a common scripting form to write our languages, right? So that's then the problem there is how do you identify languages? So because you need to differentiate that from the Latin characters or the English text. If you write something in Romanized form, right? So then you need to know how to identify. So in which language it is written, right? Um, yeah, so they are also written in multiple writing system, as I was saying, right? Then also we have the other problem. One script is used to many languages, right? Say if we take Devanagari, it's been used to write around 9 different languages, right? Including Hindi, Bhojpuri, Marathi, Sanskrit, and Nepali, right? So they look the same. There also we have a problem of language identification, right? So because they are very close by, there will be a lot of text generated, the same script, right? Then you need to identify languages, whether it is Hindi or a Bhojpuri or a Marathi. There are ways, but yeah, so that is again a challenge. It was a big challenge early days, but with LLM, things are getting smoother, at least in this particular task of language identification. Then our scripts, they also have evolved. Since they were there for a long time, they have evolved over the time, right? So if they are evolving over the time, evolving in the sense their shapes also, it changes over the time, right? So if you want to do an OCR of ancient Olaliv, right, you have a problem because their shapes are different. So then you need to train another system. Whether you will have enough data or not, a question, right? Then the way we write also changes based on the medium, right? So we had this very old like printing book. So the first one is one of the first book which was written on paper, etc. And then we have Olaliv in the middle, and then the modern thing. Again, we have a rendering problem. We have squares, right? So things are not yet solved, the fundamental problems, right? So here the challenge is not only the OCR challenge that we have in recognizing characters, but also the segmentation is a bigger problem. Because if we take this Olalives, right, in which we write our text continuously without any spaces, right? Also, we don't use some of these important diacritics when we write, because diacritic mark easily can destroy or corrupt the Olali, because they are maybe a dot or a sharp dash. They don't write it. So then it is up to the reader to read or put where to put the diacritic and where to segment it, right? So the problem is now we don't have that many people who can read Olalives. And other problem is this Olaliv is mainly used in our part of world, not in the Western part. So if you go for a knowledge exchange with the Western people, they clearly say, okay, they don't know about Olalives and how to process it and how to extract text. So you need to invent your own technology to do that, right? So we had that problem because we have a collaboration with University of Constant, and they have very good digital library and they are very good in open science, but they clearly said, okay, no, they can't help with this. British Library may help you with that because we have 24,000 Olalives just sitting in our library and we need to extract content, and they have so much wealth, so much ancient knowledge in it, which we need to extract. They are just sitting, right? So we have challenges, the local challenges to be solved, right? Because of the medium that we used to write. Then numerals, they bring their own challenges to us, right? So we have nice numerals. Sadly, it is not being used nowadays, right? But still we can find it in very old books. Not very old book, I mean in 1900 books, at least in Tamil books, we can find numerals, right? We have numerals for numbers as well as fractions, right? For fractions, we have different notations. And if you take Eastern Arabic, Persian, and Urdu, they have a different problem, right? So if you want to write, if I'm correct, if you want to write Urdu, then you need to mix the code points, or you need to borrow the code points from Persian to write 1, 2, 3. And then, but in the middle to write 4, you can use your own code point space. Then you again go back to Persian code point and you come back. So unnecessary, I mean, if you are to sort this, then you need to write your own custom rule to sort all these numbers, right? But yeah, again, LLM has solved this particular problem to some extent, the sorting problem. But if you are to develop, as if there are computer science students, if you are to develop an application, you need to keep this in mind, right? Sorting order, it's not just like 1, 2, 3. You can't just sort it by code point. There are some other factors to consider. Then this Tamil numerals, they have this uh, confusing nature between the alphabet as well as number. Say for example, the first one, the one which is highlighted in red, and the second one, it looks the same, right? But the first one is letter K, the second one is number 1, right? And interestingly, if we search for this number 1, right, with you still get a lot of results in Google, because people, so they confuse with letter K and number 1, they type it. Then, so similarly, I mean, I have given only 2 examples, but there are so many examples, right? So many confusing set. The problem here is, what we do, all these famous data set, common crawl and all, what they do is they just crawl and keep it. They don't know whether that is a number, this is a car, letter car, right? So they just consider it for training and do all this validation, and they report the results and say, okay, 99%, wow, so we are success, but they don't know what is happening underneath that and the complexity of that. So as people who are coming from this region, we should be worried about it, and we should be aware of such challenges, right? Then the poetic text. This is a large amount of text that we have, right? Which has its own problem, as I was saying, the tokenization problem. So this is, I have taken it from Tirukkural. It's a famous text which has been translated to like close to 300, 400 languages, different languages, which speak about human value. So this is uh, the text. I can highlight it here probably. No. Okay. Yeah, so this is basically, yeah, so this is basically the poem, right? It's a 2 line of it. But if you want to read it, you need to take some character from the second token to the first token, and first token to the second token, right? So you need to change the form of it in order to understand it, right? But they made it in such a way to fit the poem to a metrical structure they had. For that particular poem form, the format, it needs to be in a particular structure, right? So in order to fit there, they have broken that up here and there, and they have fit it. But if you are to read it, then you need to know how to segment it and how to extract words. Then only you can do whatever with it, right? So this is a problem when you start processing poetic text, right? Even that is hard to read for like younger generation now. They don't know how to break these, and so it is a problem. Then we have multiple encoding. This is still a very complex problem, at least for our like country, in our country. So Unicode has been introduced. The Tamil has been incorporated in Unicode in 1991, but still we use ASCII-based font, right, to type in Tamil, right? Even our universities sometimes ask article which are typed in ASCII-based. The problem with ASCII-based encoding is, so they are actually, whatever you type, although you see that in Tamil language or Urdu language, you may see it in your own language, but actually it is stored in ASCII numbers, right? So computer will see that as ASCII number, not as like Tamil language or Urdu Sinhala, right? So you can't do any processing, you can't search, right? In recent times, we are going around to various government departments and we are giving training on this generative AI, how they can use AI technology in their day-to-day operation, right? So most of them, they come up with a requirement of drafting a letter and all based on whatever the information that they have in reports or based on previous letter, right? But their previous letters are in ASCII-based font. They are not usable in any of these technologies to draft a new letter, right? So they need to convert it, right? For some reason, they are happy to post in Unicode when they do post in Facebook or somewhere, but when it comes to official work, they are stick to ASCII, but things are changing, but it is a problem. And when it comes to Tamil, it is not only this ASCII based thing, we also have this Tamil new encoding, which is introduced by Tamil Nadu government in southern India. So there are some content in that format, right? It's a full-fledged encoding. Then we have standard encoding. We have in between, there are other Tibas and all, right? So, but still we have a lot of content in each of these encoding, and even each encoding, if you take ASCII based encoding, there are no standard. People come up with different fonts, which is mapped to different characters. Right? So the conversion is also not that very straightforward. So having multiple encoding, again, a problem. Then we have the problem of sorting, right? So this is again the LLM has solved this, and also whatever the uh, libraries that we are using, the Unicode library, if you are using, then you don't need to worry. But if you are going to implement your own system to sort a list of words, then you need to know there is a sorting problem in Unicode. In Unicode, when they encoding is basically they give a unique number to each of your glyph, or you can say character, but technically it's a glyph, right? So those glyphs are not sorted in the way that we study, right? They are sorted based on some principle. There are again some politics involved in it, how the standardization they have done. Anyway, so it is not in the order that we actually see it in the dictionary, right? So you need to resort it, right? That is there in Arabic script as well, or Persian script. So if you are to develop something, then you need to think about it. Then we have another set of problem, that Unicode characters, so special Unicode character, we call it zero with joiner and zero with non-joiner. We have two special characters which are used in some of the languages, some of the script actually. For example, Sinhala uses it a lot. For example, if you want to write Sri Lanka, in that Sri, there is a zero with joiner character, right? So it doesn't have any form to it, right? It is a special character to say when you put together two characters, one character should go on top of another character. That is what it basically means. So that code point doesn't have any forms or the shape to it, right? But all these systems, what they do, including Google search until very recent time, they think that it is a delimiter or a punctuation mark. They just remove that. So if you search for Sri Lanka until very recently, you will not see the actual Sri, but you will see a split character, right? Same with some other like Krida sports. So if you want to write, so you need all this, and so that is not handled well. Then we have the another bigger dimension of problem that we have is the code mix data, right? So as per the studies, there are 15 to 30% of social media data they have code mixed, right? And what the research people like Code Mix Bench, the recent paper, they say that since we are training with multiple languages, so we say that code mix, so we have Urdu has a code mix with Sindhi or maybe whatever Punjabi, right? Training them together doesn't mean that your code mix problem is solved, right? So that they have some statistics. So then typology matters. So the closer ones, there is a chance that the code mix can be solved. But if it is a diverse family, if you are writing, if you are mixing two diverse, typologically diverse, or the two drastically different language families, then it is a problem. And low resource languages are affected very much, right? So this is another dimension. And then we also have romanization and code mix. Sometimes it's very difficult to distinguish, right? Say for example, in Sinhala we say mata bus ekak allaganna puluwang une. So they are the bus, right? They in Sinhala also they call it bus, and when they write it they have written BUS. So whether it is because of romanization or a code mix, then you need another dictionary to say that, okay, this is code mix and this is romanization. So in this case, this is basically, that is how they say, bus, right? Yeah, you have the same problem, right? And then we also have this multiple like code mix. Say for example in Tamil, bus eduthundu suruka va us panna velum. So the us is the cleanup is coming from Sinhala, bus is coming from English. So we have multiple like languages get code mix. So whether differentiating the romanization or a code mix, again a challenge, right? So we have been looking at some of the representational challenges. Why I call it representational challenges? Because these are the challenges that we have when we first represent them in our computer and look at the language, study the language, right? So first, the language identification. When we write something using multiple script, the same language using multiple script, or using a single script to write multiple languages, now the LLMs are good. I mean, they identify at least we have this workshop series called CHIPSAL, Challenges in Processing South Asian Languages, that we ran first time in with this year's Calling. Calling is a popular computational linguistics conference, if you haven't heard about it. So we ran it as a co-located event with that by having people from all South Asian regions. So we had organizers from Sri Lanka, India, Pakistan, Nepal, to make sure that we have representation. So so it is not one man thing. So we as a region we should work together because we have lot to share. There are a lot of challenges that we can exchange, solution we can exchange. So the purpose of that workshop is to discuss the challenges, starting from the representational challenges up to very LLM challenges. So that is the idea, and it was quite successful. And this year we have proposed to have it with LREC, thinking that we will come up with more and more resource papers. So last year we were running a shared task to identify languages which are written using Devanagari, right? And they were quite successful. The models could do that, recognize that like 99% of time. So that is there, but again there is a problem that we are still we need to check and we need to ensure that sometime when we organize these shared tasks and then the results are reported, we also need to make sure that the evaluation set is kept very secretly. So, so in this case, the shared task organizers, I hope they did that and they made sure that the evaluation set is kept secret. Otherwise, it is all the LLM will grab that and train itself, and they will do whatever they want, right? Then sequencing Unicode point, as I was saying, the sorting problem also, the LLMs do well. Probably they are grabbing it from Unicode documentation and wherever places. And confusing characters also, they do well, but not always. And also they particularly struggle when it comes to this zero with joiner and the special Unicode point, because all of these tokenization is a process, Dr. Charles probably talk about it. It's a process where you chunk the given text before you feed it to any LLM, right? So you basically tokenize it. So at that stage, they consider all these zero with joiner as either punctuation or a delimiter or just another character, right? So then they split text on that sometime, right? So sometime one piece will go with a previous token and this zero with joiner will go as a separate token. Doesn't make any sense, right? Then it handles, it struggle when it comes to handling poems, right? Of course, there are not much of data, right, for them to learn. Then they also struggle with romanization, code mixing, dialectal variations, right? When you write something in dialectal like form, then they struggle, right? So with a perspective of representation, they struggle in all these areas from what we looked at it. And they also do not do the justice for our languages in terms of tokenization. This is a paper that we published in last calling. This is about analyzing our tokenizers and proposing this grapheme based encoding, right? So it got a lot of attention, and so there the problem is, if we take hello, that is in Tamil we call it vanakkam, that split that vanakkam in GPT-2 it is broken into 4 tokens, in GPT-4 it is broken into 3 tokens, and same in Llama, right? Same with Hindi, Urdu, Hindi and Sinhala, right? So that is all what we analyzed. So especially in Sinhala, it breaks that into 6 tokens, right? So if you are processing some English text, probably you may be paying for 1 token. So what do you pay is per token, right? So if you are processing English text, they are already high resource languages, very well established languages in technology world, and they are also economically developed countries where the English is spoken, but they charge it for 1 token. But when it comes to Sinhala, they charge it for 6 tokens, right? So it is, I mean, the challenge, even if you take LLM, they don't basically represent our languages well. That hurts us not only in terms of language processing point of view, but also in terms of economical point of view, right? 6 times we are paying, right? So they have a problem. Right? So these are some representation level problem, fundamental problem, although you may have seen this problem already, but we need to take care of it as as a region, as computer science people, we should be worried about it, right? Then when it comes to linguistic challenges, I will not go into very detailed analysis of linguistic analysis of it, but I will go in very high level. Um, it starts again from phonology or morphophonology, right? We have this special like formation called sandhi. When we put together two morph or two words together, then there is some assimilation happen and there are some new character comes in, right? So there are, but none of these LLM, they handle that sandhi. They just write it without sandhi. But if when you read it, the native speaker will know, okay, there should be a some character or there is a sound should come when they read together. But if it is a non-native speaker, he will not know. So then this is a problem when it comes to TTS. What people do, they give it to this ASR, the automatic speech recognition machines. They transcribe it. It doesn't do anything with Sandhi. It doesn't like handle Sandhi. Then they feed it to TTS to generate voice or do something. So you will hear artificial voices, right? Because they don't go together, right? Then we have a need for phonologist. I mean, I don't know. At least in our country, we badly need phonologist because that is going to be future, right? The speech technologies, and if we want to generate expressive, natural-like speeches, then we need phonologists. That is a big gap that we have, and all this contributes to ASR and TTS, right? And data sets. So we also have a problem with data sets. So some data sets come up with Sandhi, and some data set come without Sandhi. Then should I stop or? Yeah. Right. So we have confusing data set. One will have one type of data like with Sandhi, and another one is without Sandhi, but we train on one data set and evaluate on other data set and we report the results unless we know there are issues with the data sets. Not only Sandhi issues, but there are other issues also there. Then morphology, again, it is very complicated, right? LLMs, they don't do at all, I would say. Um, uh, Say, for example, I was being destroyed. So in Tamil, which is, we call it Alindu Kondirundhen. So it has so many morphs, right? And which marks different morphemes like transitivity, aspect marker, and then second aspect marker. But we sometimes we consider they both of them together marks the continuous. So sometimes we handle it separately to say that it's a continuous, right? Uh, yeah, there are debates around it. Anyway, the past tense mark and then first person singular. So many information are packed within one token, right? Um, so unless you extract them, right? Unless you extract them, you can't analyze, right? Any given words, right? This is a difficult thing for LLMs because they work in the token level and those tokens are not actual morph, right? Those are just broken down based on, if you take GPT tokenizer, it basically tokenize it based on some regular expressions, right? So it doesn't do anything with morphs. So they always confuse, right? If you ask something, right? And because of these conjugations that we have, conjugational forms that we have, for example, if we take the universal dependency, if you have heard about it, it is a dependency tree bank. Now we can say de facto dependency tree bank. More than 200 languages are being like incorporated to it, and there are so many 100 tree banks. We also have a tree bank for Tamil. Um, so where we have multi-words. Basically, sometimes we put together two words together to form a token that is for various reasons, maybe emphasis. So there are other various reasons. I will not get into that. So on average, each token has two or more synthetic words in Tamil tree band. So, but if you take English, it's usually one or 1.1 or something. The most, the high, like morphological rich languages, they have 1.4, but we have more thing. And so I also developed a morphological parser some time ago. With that, for 3000 verbal roots, I could generate more than 54 million conjugational forms, right? So which means, say if we take a word, say cut, right? What are the different forms it can take, right? So if you take Tamil, there are literature says that with inflection and morphology, inflection and derivation, there are close to 8,000 forms. But in my morphological analysis, I handled around 990. And with that all like thing, I could generate 54 million forms by processing 3,000 verbal roots. So it's so rich, right? The area of morphology, and that is one of the key feature of our regional languages. So which is missing, I would say completely missing in LLMs. Although they may sometime randomly generate it, but it is not because they understand, but they somehow found a beam siege which connects all those things and give us the surface form. Then when it comes to syntax, again, we have all these non-canonical constructions and we have word order differences, like although we write it like SOV order, not SVO order, um, but we can write it in all different ways in order to give focus, etc. Um, then we have dative subjects where usually the subjects are in nominative form, but we also have dative subjects, experiential subjects, sometimes we call it, and we have pro drops. You can drop the subject because all the subject information of a subject is carried in the predicate. So you don't always need a subject, right? But the models are not used to that. They always they are 95% of data where they are trained on something which has very strict structure, right? And we don't need copula, right? So he is a doctor, we can drop is and we say he doctor. Still it makes sense in our language, at least in Tamil and other Dravidian languages, the copula, but we can also introduce copula. So, and we have the bigger area, complex predicate, right? So yeah, so I have given some examples. I will not go into very detail, but these are the synthetical issues that randomly may be handled by LLM, but not properly. Right. Then if we go to the next layer, semantics and also pragmatic and stylistics, etc., right? Pragmatic reasoning, right? So we have done so I was part of this benchmark effort together with AI Singapore. They were doing benchmarking for Southeastern languages, and Tamil is, since Tamil is an official language of Singapore, they also wanted to do a benchmarking for Tamil, and then we did some pragmatic reasoning, right? Say, for example, can you reach the soul? The meaning is actually, can you give the soul? Not basically you extend your hand and reach the salt bottle, right? So they were like around 59.2 of 26 percentage. They were right, but it was for a small data set, which is more Singapore centric data, right? Then idioms, of course, when I say idioms and similes and metaphor, I'm talking it from our regional point of view, right? Regional idiom, not the English one, because there are enough data, enough interpretation from which they can learn it. But when it comes to our languages, we have so many idioms, and this, when it comes to metaphors, some of these metaphors even we don't understand because they are culturally and the timely relevant ones. So the whole metaphors, we don't know. I mean, when we read the poems, we don't understand what they are talking about. We sometimes interpret it differently or wrongly, right? So these are again areas where we need a lot of work and a lot of data sets to be done. So how much they do, LLMs can do linguistics, specifically the South Asian linguistics. When it comes to semantic, when I say semantics, whether they can generate a plausible or sentence, they do it with some way, I mean, from the data and through the translation or whatever means, they do it, right? But if you go further down from there, right, they start struggling, right? Especially if you go further down and down, then you are going towards the core of your language, then the LLM struggles. So again, to quantify this, there are some efforts. So recently what we did was we have taken questions from grade 1 to, so grade 1 is the first grade that our kids starts their school, and it goes up to grade 13 years of education. In each year, they can take Tamil as a subject. It is a compulsory subject until grade 11, and then 12 and 13, it is an optional, right? So what we did was we took the questions from the examination paper and we converted in such a way that we can evaluate these LLMs, and we did the evaluation, and we found that Gemini was doing better compared to all other GPT-5 or all other commercial model Quen, and then Grok, right, and open source varieties Llama, and yeah. So, and then this Urdu BLIM. So this is a minimal pair test which has recently got published by Farha and then Hashan Sajat and all, right? They say that Llama performs better for minimal pair. So what they have done is they have taken different Urdu synthetical constructions, and they have tested it with these models to see whether they understand it. So they found that Llama 9 basically handle it 94% of time. Then there is a Sinhala MMLU, massive multilingual massive language, whatever. Yeah, you. So it's an evaluation text evaluation which is based on the school textbook. The earlier one, MMLU, the original one was based on American textbook, and then regional ones they are now making it. So there is one for Sinhala which they published recently. They found that Claude is better. Then Indic MMLU, they found it GPT 4.0 is better. So something is not right, or maybe I don't know, because each of these suggests different models, right? So what will fit, what the one model fit to all our region, all our languages, right? It is a question to ask, and we also need to look at this data set, whether study them properly, right? So it is very difficult to quantify whether they handle LMS or which LMS will handle it. It's a question, right? Then the other bigger problem is cultural evaluation, right? So again, so lot of progress needs to be done, and again, as a part of this Bhasha evaluation, Singapore party, we did a small cultural evaluation on Tamil Singaporean culture, right? So we tested their food habits and their rituals, etc. And GPT-4 was performing 30%. So it is right only 30% of time. And then in the single MMLU also, they have extracted all these cultural related questions and they have evaluated. It performs very poorly. And if you take this cultural X data sets, that's a popular data set which has 6.3 trillion tokens, but only, like you can see, only in the second digit that we have our languages, right? Except maybe Hindi, which is 0.27, but others are very little data that we cultural data. Again, we don't know whether we can rely on that data, how those were constructed, whether our regional cultures are represented. It is a problem, right? Then reasoning capability. Again, a lot more progress need to be done. Then recently I was part of another effort. It is a huge effort, like 300 plus researchers. We were working together to create a data set, reasoning data sets. And then we evaluated based on various terms. One is based on language family. So it was like the cloud was performing 92% of time. It was right about reasoning. So what we did was say things like, if I drop a glass bottle on the floor, whether it will break or it will bend, right? But again, we question certain things there because of these are like the way we immediately think is based on what we saw, what we read, right? Maybe these models are translating this and doing the reasoning and giving us the answer. We don't know, but somehow it performed better, right? But we know for sure, but if we test general reasoning in our local context, it gives a lot of problem, right? So those are reasoning, like we need to work on that. Then if we take our regional LLM development, so I will finish it in probably 5 minutes. Regional LLM, so we have a fine-tuned LLM using Llama for Sinhala, Urdu, then Tamil, right? Um, then Sarvam, they say that they did it from ground up training, but we don't know for sure. It is then Alif again based on Llama and Airavada, they fine tune like the Hindi base, right? Pramano, they again say that they do the ground up training, but it's a small model. So there are some efforts are happening, and what we can learn from all these efforts are they are mostly a fine-tuning effort. So pre-trained fine-tuning effort. So they, as I already shown, either Llama or yeah, mostly Llama, and there are Mistral also. People have used to train it, right? But what we can learn from that is they recommend, most of them they recommend. So pre-train on native script, monolingual data before multilingual fine-tuning, right? But usually we do other way. We take multilingual model and fine-tune it with our monolingual data. Then I don't know. I mean, for their recommendation is so there should be some effort to do that, and it makes sense in some sense because you capture your data and then you fine-tune it with multilingual data to bring in other language knowledge. But the problem is you need to have enough data to train your own model. But if you take at least as a South Asian languages, like they did for Southeast Asian languages, if we can at least compile a comprehensive data set for South Asian languages and then train a model and then we fine tune it with some other data, it may work. We should try. Then the tokenizer problem, as I was already discussed, it is a problem and it is also identified in the papers based on the LLM fine tuning. Locally written instruction data instead of translated prompt, right? When we do the translation, the structure is very monotonic and you will lose all your nuances, the syntactical nuances that you have in your languages. And focus on smaller but high quality data, that is important, right? And include cultural and pragmatic reasoning tasks when we do the benchmarking of this task. So these are the key information that we can gather, the commenting that that have been spoken in those paper who develop these paper models, right? Then similarly in Southeastern languages, so they also have similar challenges, right? They also share some of our script, right? Culturally also they are diverse. Linguistically they are even more diverse than us, right? So they also have fine-tuned so many, they also have come up with their own models. For example, Sea Lion, it is by AI Singapore people for Southeast Asian languages, which they say that it performs better than, that is the state-of-the-art model for Southeast Asian languages. What they have done is they have from their report, what we can gather is fine-tune, don't rebuild. They say that don't rebuild, fine-tune it, right? Then again, tokenization problem is reported there. Everyone reports that. Code mix, we need to specifically target code mix and we need to solve it. It is a huge portion of data that we find in the internet, right? And importantly, the empowering community and governance to bring up local data, local cultural nuances as data sets, right? So that is very important. We educating communities, grassroots, and working with linguists. So what they mean by this communities is various linguists and then technologists, right? The grassroots people. So we all should work together and cross-disciplinarily, and we need to come up with the data sets. Then only we can come up with a LLM which can do something meaningful to our languages. That is what we can learn from all their efforts that they have done, right? So in order to do that, in order to get there, so we looked at the challenges and we looked at where the LLMs are. Then in order to get there, we need human resources. This is a fundamental problem that we have in our region. We need linguists. We need linguists who knows this modern linguistic phenomena, who can understand, who can map the languages to in a way that computers can understand and process, right? And now there is a trend that linguistics is not needed, but they are needed. And if you are to analyze, if you are to do any digital humanities, if you are to do any second language learning, if you are to do any sociology work, you need linguistics, right? So don't think that it is an obsolete discipline, right? So it is very important, and even more important to computer science and this natural language processing now in the LLM era. So we need to invest on that. We need to invest on data sets, specifically benchmark data sets and training data sets, right? And we need to create rich metadata, not just compile some random data and say Tamil, say that has happened for Tamil data set. So they get all the data and say this is Tamil data set. That is not usable unless you know from which region it is being taken, right? You can't do any meaningful processing, right? Then we need to keep the benchmarks private, but we need to invest on data sets. To do all this, we also have some bottlenecks ahead, right? Computation. So if we take, so we share only probably 5 to 10% of, not even 5 to 10%, less than 5% of GPU computation in the world. So if we take the whole region, so that is what we have. But last week, Jason came and said he will be giving 250,000 high-end GPUs to South Korea, right? So, but if we add up all the GPUs here, we will not have that, right? Yeah, so the computation is a problem, but it can be solved to some extent so that we manage to do that. But how we do that is through collaboration. You collaborated with some people who has computation power. They also now have the pressure that now they have done enough with these high resource languages. Now they need a problem to solve. So they are always happy to work with you as long as you pitch the problem correctly, right? So there is an opportunity. I mean, in that way, we can get some computation, but it is very important to have own computation infrastructure in the region to grow forward and economically grow forward, right? So if you work with collaboratively, your economic value is almost gone, right? And if you want to economically grow, then internet penetration, another problem that we have. So we talk about this LLMs, generative AI. On the other hand, this digital divide is becoming larger and larger because the people who are with some money and the internet, now they are going richer and richer and high. On the other hand, the people who are without internet having a problem. This is a report taken from report, and so South Asian region, 51.5% of internet penetration. So that is a problem. This is a problem even to collect data, compile data, right? So it is important, and we also, if we build something, that is not enough. We need to get people to use it. Then only we can grow, right? Otherwise, they will be sitting on our servers doing nothing. Maybe Google will utilize it or Facebook will utilize it, but actual value will not be delivered. So for that, we need to do the AI education, but to do that, we need the internet penetration, right? Yeah, so we have challenges LLMs are doing to some extent, but they also struggle, and we have bottlenecks. So from here, where should we go and what should we do, right? That is basically you all should discuss, we all should discuss, we all should find out how we can contribute meaningfully to our languages, to our region. Yeah, thank you.